Cardiometabolic is one of the biggest health challenges in the U.S., and evaluating patient risk across multiple conditions requires careful attention. With so many testing options and guidelines, getting a clear picture of patient health can still be a challenge. LabCorp brings clarity. Our cardiometabolic testing solutions support early risk assessment and empower more informed decision-making, so you can focus on what matters most, your patients. Visit LabCorp.com to partner with LabCorp and simplify complex patient profiles.
Well, hi there, and welcome back. My name is Stephanie Safarian, and you're listening to episode 589 of Sustainable Minimalists. This is a listener-supported show about intentional and eco-friendly minimalist living. And on today's show, we are traveling back in time to the late 90s, early 2000s, when the internet was awesome. Yes, there was a time for my younger listeners who may not have grown up in the early days of the internet. I did, and the internet at its inception was amazing. But then something happened, and what happened was shareholder capitalism got its little paws into this budding technology, and over the years, we've really seen technology worsen. It used to be that you searched for, whatever you were searching for, and you got whatever you were searching for. You didn't have to filter through dozens of sponsored posts and sponsored search results and influencers pretending they're not trying to influence you by giving you affiliate links. The internet used to be a tool, and it used to be a lot of fun as well. But yes, something changed. Fast forward to 2026, perhaps if you're like me, you're feeling as though the incessant connection, the incessant having the internet and all its wonders accessible to you at all times, perhaps that has turned a corner. Perhaps it is no longer adding to life, but perhaps it's detracting from our days. And so that's what we're talking about today. My guest is Emily Feldposh, and she wrote a new book after searching for support with overwhelm in this digital age and coming up with nothing. Her book is called The Unfollow Effect, Intentional Living in a Digital Age, and it explores what adults of my era who grew up before smartphones have quietly lost. And it also discussed what we want to preserve for ourselves and for our children in the next generation. What can we take from the pre-internet time, and how can we preserve it in this digital age for our children? That's what we're discussing today. Emily, I'm so thrilled to have you on the show. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. I really like your approach to minimalism and just the way the world's going, and I'm excited to analyze some things with you.
Same. I always like to have my guests introduce themselves. So why don't you tell us however much or however little you think we need to know about Emily Feldposh, where you're from, why you wrote a book. Give us the details.
Absolutely. So my name is Emily Feldposh. I'm a parent to 3 boys. I'm an educator for almost 20 years, specifically in special education. I wrote a book called The Unfollow Effect, Intentional Living in a Digital Age, when I found myself and I observed others overwhelmed through smartphones and digital life, social media use. And being the parent of 3 boys under 11 could easily be blamed for my personal overwhelm, but I just knew that wasn't it. Though my real life was full, I felt this pressure to be online, whether to pursue some side hustle or to show off my daily life. And when I found I interrupted many small moments with my young boys to look to the screen, I knew something had to change. So I started to write to process my own kind of way to deal with that. And then as a call to action to figure out how can we take a step back and use technology in more meaningful ways that is not going to affect our own contentment and what we're modeling to young people today.
Let's talk about where you were when the internet exploded. And I'll start. I was, I think, in 9th grade when my mother brought the computer into the home and signed up for America Online and dial up. And we had this technology. I could chat on Instant Messenger with my friends. For the younger people who are listening right now, they might have not had this experience, but The internet used to be amazing. It was not chock full of ads. You could find exactly what you wanted. You could chat with your friend's family, the cute boy who was in your English class, on Instant Messenger without being advertised to, without being influenced, without getting bogged down by pages and pages of curated algorithmic advertisements. I personally did not experience any of the mental or emotional consequences that today's internet is pushing on a vulnerable population. But that's all to say, I want to know about you and your first experiences with the internet, because mine was lovely and then they changed it.
Yeah, I can mimic a similar kind of beginning. I loved AOL Instant Messenger. I was in college at the time. And I was thinking, how is it different than the incessant text messaging we're doing today? It was different because it had built-in boundaries. So we would go to a computer, we would sign on, we would elect to chat. And then when that ended, we'd walk away and go live life. But I don't think it was innocent. I remember like multitasking, messaging while I'm writing reports. But after that, when Facebook became a thing, it was like my younger siblings were on there and they were like over the computer, and I instantly felt, oh my gosh, what is that? If they're on there, if I don't know what to do on there, I'm left out. So it was like, okay, you have to get on to Facebook now. Otherwise you're left out. And then I think when Instagram started, it was fun. It was creative, had the really silly out there filters, and you would just share with a couple of people. But then I remember when it was like, oh, people's pictures are really good now. And then there was this whole, like, you have to present yourself. And that's when I started feeling personally affected and seeing other people affected.
Oh, I like that. You had to present yourself in a certain way. That is so true. Because for me, at least, I can't speak for everybody in 1998, but for me, the internet in its early days was a place for me to find my niche. It wasn't about me fitting into a box. It was about me finding other people who were also like me in my box. But something changed. And you speak to it really well. You say, we have to then change ourselves to fit into the box. And that's a subtle but very important difference, I think. And so I'm just curious, like, when do you think that happened? If you had to pin it down, I have some thoughts, but I'm curious, when did it change?
Gosh, I think, it was right around when images were allowable. So Facebook in the beginning was like poking someone. I look back to my old feed and it was like, hi, cousin Beth, how are you doing over there? And as soon as the pictures were pretty, I think that's when it started going down. It was the images, I think.
Yeah. And I would say something changed too when we got internet in our pockets on our smartphones around 2008. Before, the internet was something that you had to set time aside for, log on to your desktop. Maybe you're chatting for a little bit, but when it got overwhelming, you could say, okay, I'm logging off now, shut the computer, go live your life. And now we're truly, literally always on. And this show has talked about the consequences with constant, perpetually on connectivity. It's affecting various aspects of our lives. But in the context of researching for your new book, what did you find? What has constant connectivity changed about our attention spans, about our mental and emotional health, about our well-being, about how present we are with our families? What is constant connectivity doing to us?
Oh gosh, constant connectivity is splitting our attention in many ways. I mean, in terms of relationships, we're allowing so much attention to communicating online. And I think, ironically, that leads to more loneliness. We're focused so much on quantity instead of quality. So if we're putting so much effort into maintaining relationships online, it's taking away literal time from seeing people in person. So phone calls, in-person get-togethers, doing things we enjoy, and then meeting people as a result. We're almost like, oh, well, I've already connected with 100 people today online. I don't really need to do anything else. And then, of course, our attention spans are dwindling. I observe this in myself, even like intermittently. So I wrote the book and it's a constant, oh, now I've moved on to Reddit, or now I've moved on to checking my email too much. So it's this constant pull of your attention. And then if we let our attention go to that too much, we can't watch movies anymore, sitting in any sort of presentation, a classroom, playing preschool age games with our young children. Those things are all so slow and boring to us now. And then, of course, there's just like the everyday difficult things we need to do that are very hard to do now. So homework for kids, cleaning the house, anything that's slow, I think is much more difficult.
It's interesting to me how rapidly evolving tech just sweeps us up. We just are encouraged at every turn to sign up for the newest social media site, post here, but then there's this new one. There's Instagram, and then there's Snapchat, and then there's TikTok, and you have to be on all of them, or if you're not, you're missing out. Why, in your opinion, is it so hard for all of us, but especially our generation? I'm going to go ahead and assume you're of my generation. No idea if you are or not, but I'm just going to assume you are. Why is it so hard for our generation, those of us who lived a life without the internet? Why is it so hard for us to not get wrapped up and swept away?
It's fear-based. Number one, we are humans and we need to be connected. So we're going to follow where people are connecting. But I think that we are so fearful of anything that other people are doing. So we're fearing the missing out on the opportunity to show off moments online because other people are doing that. And then we're fearful that if a crowd is going somewhere, we're not, we're going to be alone. So I think the only way to combat that is almost like exposure therapy, almost like not doing that, not following the next trend, not going to TikTok, not going to whatever's trending and seeing, am I okay? Are my relationships still good? Am I still content? And sitting with that discomfort and seeing if you can move forward with that.
Listeners, we're going to take a quick sponsor break. I'll see you in a minute. I'll be honest, for a long time, financial planning stressed me out. I thought it was only for people who already had a lot of money in the bank. I worried that some guy in a suit would judge me for how much I spent last month on takeout. But Fearless Finance completely changed my perspective. Fearless Finance is on-demand financial planning for absolutely everyone. It's a woman-owned business with real planners who meet you where you're at. There's no minimum net worth, and they charge by the hour, so you only pay for the time you actually use. There's no high fees, no long-term commitments, and it's entirely virtual. You can get advice from your couch, and isn't that great? Because we all deserve financial advice without the intimidation. Visit fearlessfinance.com today. You can chat with a planner for free first to make sure it's a good fit. And because you listen to this show, you can get $50 off your first meeting when you use code SUSTAINABLE. Get the advice you need without the fear. fearlessfinance.com, promo code SUSTAINABLE.
What would you do if your online store converted 36% more shoppers? You could take 36% more vacation.
Another pina colada? Yes, please.
Open a new retail location with 36% more square feet.
Fantastic.
Hire 36% more help.
You're hired and you're hired.
Shopify has the world's best converting checkout, up to 36% better than other e-commerce platforms. What you do with those extra sales is up to you. Switch to Shopify today at shopify.com/listen and get a $1 trial. Shopify.com/listen.
Cardiometabolic is one of the biggest health challenges in the U.S., and evaluating patient risk across multiple conditions requires careful attention. With so many testing options and guidelines, getting a clear picture of patient health can still be a challenge. LabCorp brings clarity. Our cardiometabolic testing solutions support early risk assessment and empower more informed decision-making, so you can focus on what matters most, your patients. Visit LabCorp.com to partner with LabCorp and simplify complex patient profiles.
What I like about your book is it's all about unfollowing the aspects of modern tech life. I don't know if that's the right phrase, but it's about unfollowing all the aspects of technology and social media that are detracting from our lives as opposed to adding to it. And so you mentioned there, we don't want to be left out or left behind. There's a innate biological urge that we human beings have to be part of a herd. I totally understand, if the herd is posting about their great vacations and their amazing moments on social media, it can be really difficult to not do what the herd is doing, right? We don't want to be left out. And so what would you say to people who are listening right now who know and they feel it? It's not that they know it. They feel that incessant online life is detracting from real life, and yet they can't pull the plug because there's always an excuse. It's, my Buy Nothing group is on Facebook, and if I stop using Facebook, I won't have access to Buy Nothing. Or, but my family that lives in California, I post pictures of my grandkids on Instagram, and if I get off Instagram, I won't ever see pictures of my grandkids again, or whatever the excuse is. What would you say to them? What's the first thing you would say to them?
The first thing I would say is just stop. Put your phone down and find it a home. We are never going to will ourselves away from the opportunity for a dopamine hit or for the opportunity to seek validation or to connect. And we can never buy enough stuff that's going to detract us from going for the screen. It's the physical boundaries that are important. Just putting the phone down, stepping away from it, going for a walk. And then it's all about hiding or removing apps, allowing certain times of the day to check the phone, and then coming up with alternate things that you can bring when you're using the phone as an excuse. So maybe a regular watch if you're concerned about the time, or setting a timer for when you can check your phone for text messages, when you can check your social media to see what your niece has been up to or your daughter in a different state. So it's pausing and then creating just those physical boundaries.
I have two things to say there. The first is for anybody who's listening and is feeling stressed by even the thought of stepping away from their smartphone, social media use, I would say, number one, it's not a personal failing. Social media platforms in particular, they are expertly designed to keep us scrolling. And they want to keep us scrolling even though they know that their platforms lead to depression, anxiety, eating disorders in teenage girls. They keep updating their sites, their platforms, to make their platforms more addictive anyway. So it's not a personal failing like, why can't I moderate my social media use? It's not a glitch in the system. It's a feature, if that makes sense. They're making their platforms addictive on purpose. So that's number one. And number two is more of a question, which is I have been working in my own life to moderate my tech use. I have excuses too. My excuses aren't so much of the, but I don't want to miss out. My excuses as somebody who hosts a podcast is, but I have to show up online to engage my audience. I have to keep being on. That's what the voice in my head is telling me as my reason to keep up and stay on social media. And so when I try and step back, it's quite uncomfortable for me. I actually experience extra anxiety, at least at the beginning in the first half hour. I'm reaching for something that's turned off and not there. It's a weird feeling of like I'm missing an appendage, essentially. I'll say personally, it doesn't last. So keep going. Don't give in to the difficulty of it. Push past the difficulty. But I'm curious, have you experienced difficulty when putting up limits? And if so, how did you stay the course? How did you keep going?
Yeah, I can definitely relate. Like, I feel the anxiety as well. It's giving yourself grace when you have a setback. There was one situation I talk about in my book where I literally lost my phone. And so that's where I learned, okay, physical boundaries are important. I literally could not pick up my phone. I refused to buy one for several days. And that I would never be able to do that unless I literally lost it. So just learning from that, where if you experiment and you say, I'm not going to look at my phone for 1 hour, just knowing like your limits. If that's too long, start way smaller. I'm not going to look at my phone for 15 minutes and try to make it less scary than an all or nothing approach. When I take breaks, I'm going to take a 2-week break from Snapchat. It's okay. I can do this. It's not too scary because I can always come back. That kind of mindset. So just really starting small and then increasing that space as needed. And then giving yourself grace when you do or if you do fail, because otherwise you're too tempted to give up completely. It's really starting small with those goals.
One of the things that I find so insidious about smartphones is that you go to do just one thing, check the weather or take a glance at your calendar or send a quick email to your daughter's teacher or whatever the one little quick thing is. But because everything is on this glowing rectangle, you sit there for 45 minutes. You find yourself on social media, even though you didn't expect to go there, and you're scrolling for an hour. What should we be doing in those moments when we pick up the phone to do one thing and then we look and an hour has passed and we've done nothing?
Yeah, I've definitely been there. So when that happens again, giving yourself grace and starting again anew. But there's a lot of things to prevent that too. So some things I do is I put certain apps in the hidden app folder of my iPhone. I delete apps completely off my phone so that they're only through the desktop. Putting the phone in grayscale makes it less enticing. Just paying attention to those ones that pull you in. I was really fearful. I have to check my email every 3 minutes, essentially. So taking that off of my phone. Like what I learned from losing my phone for 7 days was life went on and I was okay. And so you're only going to learn that when you take those risks. So again, like 5 minutes, not checking my phone, not checking anything. Failing at that, trying again. And then learning, okay, I think I'm okay to move this app off my phone. Or again, starting small, putting it in the hidden folder.
And what do you do when the latest and greatest comes out? Or the newest social media site comes out that everybody's flocking to. So they flock to one, then they flock to the other, then they flock back, and then they flock again. So I know what I do, but I'm curious. What do you do when TikTok is the new greatest thing, or Blue Sky, or Substack, or do you flock or do you take a beat?
I do not flock. And I battle some of the same things you do. Writing and owning a gym, I feel like, oh, we got to be online. So we find different avenues for doing that right now with our gym. We barter someone to do that. With the writing, I'm exploring different avenues that aren't posting yet, but I'm working on scheduling those. So that would be scheduling time to schedule posts. But I personally have I've gotten over the fear that I have to be on those because I have almost like my relationships are stronger. My time is meaningful. It's filled. And so I just don't do TikTok or anything beyond that. I couldn't even name probably some of the newer ones. So really, my energy goes towards what are my kids who are going to be, they're 11 and younger, what are they going to be drawn to? And how can I kind of tackle that when they are interested in those? Because I can't speak for how they are going to feel, but I feel comfortable missing out. I relish the joy of missing out.
So me too. And I'm thinking back to the beginning of our conversation when you made the point that people don't want to miss out. So we just hop on the bandwagon because we have an innate desire to be part of a herd. I would say, I don't know if it's just because I'm almost 42 or why. I have experimented with being left out, with not being part of the herd, with being okay with not doing what everybody else is doing. I've experimented a little bit here, a little bit there, not just in tech, but in all aspects of my life. And now I can say loud and proud that it is wonderful. It is amazing to be left out and to be left behind and to not be on the bandwagon or whatever we want to call it. It is fantastic to not know. How can we make that point to listeners who aren't yet there? I would say to those listeners, you're spending so much energy keeping up, doing what everybody else is doing, keeping up with the Joneses, staying active here, doing this. I would say just take little baby tiny steps in the direction of not knowing, not paying attention, not being on the bandwagon, and just step back and see how it feels. Just step back. If it feels horrible, you can jump right back on. But if it feels great, which Emily and I are telling you, it feels phenomenal, keep going. Keep going. Would you agree with that?
I would agree. And I would say, so I did do some of my research was I followed some of the subreddits on Reddit, like digital minimalism, no sir, just to get an idea of what younger people who are trying to get out of the treadmill of digital life, how they're experiencing loneliness or trying to figure that out. And kind of some tips I came up with was kind of like overtly communicating with your friends or your peer group, saying, these are my boundaries. Hey, I'm not on TikTok. Or I tell some people I'm close with, my sisters, like, hey, you guys can still send me like reels. I like to communicate, like I like to laugh with you on certain things, but this is where you can find me. And then I really think it's kind of fun to people like to talk about themselves and they like to talk about things that they're interested in. So I don't know a lot of things out in news, and I just don't, not being online, I don't know a lot of things. And so asking questions and letting people talk about what's trending or what's in the news, that really helps our relationship because they get to talk about things that are interesting to them. And I'm just actively listening. And then my third thing is us talking about how great it is to do some of these offline things in the hopes that it becomes trendy. Like my dream would be if my kids could go to high school and be like, oh yeah, I have just a phone just for calling and texting. And it's cool. And I just have a watch that tells time. And my mom trusts that I'm going to be home on time. That's my dream.
Okay, well, how's that going with your boys? Because I have a 12-year-old daughter who does not have a phone, but she is just so enamored with it. First of all, some of her friends have phones. Phones are not just cool and shiny and new and exciting. They're also a status symbol in 6th grade, when my daughter is. If you have a phone, you're one step closer to being, I don't know, cool or whatever it is. And so we're not just fighting the inherent addictive qualities that the social media sites in particular have. We're not just fighting against what I consider to be the lure of the screen. I'm not aware of any research that says that the bright, shiny screen is addictive, but I've noticed in my life, it's not like the social medias are addictive and entice me, but there's something about the screen that always is pulling on my attention. So there's that. But then with regard to our children, there's also social component, the status component, and the need to fit in component, which we've been talking about a lot here, is super strong when you're a kid. That is perhaps the strongest force on a preteen. So how are you navigating that with your children? How's it going?
So I have a 8-year-old, almost 10-year-old, and an 11-year-old. So my 11-year-old will be going to middle school next year. Writing this book is funny. My 11-year-old will be like, we don't have a phone because you wrote that book, right? Really just practicing authenticity and preaching for that to be cool. My boys are who they are, and I think they're respected because of that. And so I think we personally are in a pretty good position to say they're because we talk about it, feeling comfortable saying, giving them that language. My parents don't allow this yet. They want me to use my imagination, or the creators of smartphones didn't let their kids. So giving them those words to use to let them save face with their friends. But it's really a moment by moment thing too. We're looking at a phone that maybe is just texting, phone, call, and no internet. And really sticking to doing the research. Like, why would we do that? And for all the reasons. The attention span, the getting lured into the dopamine hits and all that. And really sticking to that confidently so that maybe peers will say, okay, if they're doing that, it can't be that bad.
Okay, you'll have to report back. Let me know how it goes. I want to go back to something we touched on at the beginning of our chat, and I want to circle around to it. I had made the point that, at least for me, in the early days of the internet was a place for me to find my tribe. It was a bunch of different tribes, and I found my people, let's say. But I do believe that the internet has now morphed into, it's this box, and we all have to opt in to the tribe, the American tribe. And that tribe, in my opinion, perpetuates the worst of American culture. I'm talking shopping halls. I'm talking buying copious amounts of cheap stuff that's polluting the planet. I'm talking about the perpetuation of outdated and harmful beauty standards. For me, as an almost 42-year-old, my Instagram algorithm is showing me an awful lot of women my age that do not look my age by any stretch of the imagination. That is an implicit, I mean, nobody's saying, hey, go get Botox and lip filler and whatever else. But the implicit assumption is if these people are big and popular with gigantic followings online and they're being shown to me in the algorithm, they're doing something right, right? And perhaps I should hop on that bandwagon. But I'm also talking about unrealistic comparisons. I'm talking about just like the parts of American culture that this show rails against. That's the box. That's the social media box. Is it possible in these days to use this incredibly powerful technology that is truly and literally at our fingertips in ways that are aligned with our values? Or in 2026, as technology is just snowballing rampantly, is that no longer possible?
There's a couple different approaches to get out of social media what you need and then leave the rest in the dust. I have this one method I call the photo album approach. So, okay, say I want to go on and look at my parents' photo album of their cruise. So I'm not going to do that in the middle of dinner. I'm not going to do that when I'm like walking the kids to school. It's like, okay, at Thursday, it's 7 p.m. when the kids are watching a movie it's me time. I'm going to get on there and I'm going to pick up the photo album. So it's intentionally going on there and doing that one task. Again, maybe I'm lured to something else and I cut myself off and I try again the next times or not do that. Just trying different things. So it's just having enough of those moments where you're not turning to the screen to look for a product, to look for an outfit, purposely not looking for things on a social media app. It is a first step that I would definitely recommend.
So tell us, before we say goodbye, Emily, what your smartphone usage looks like on an average day. You said that you have a smartphone, you have no plans to get rid of it, but what's working for you?
Yeah, I use it in my alarm clock. That works out fine. I sign up to go to the gym. I have that little app to reserve my spot. First thing in the morning, turn the alarm off, go to the gym, come back, maybe text message with my husband, go to work. And then I have a drawer, and that's where I put my phone. Read something about, even if the phone's in view, it distracts you and takes away from your productivity. I'll leave it in the drawer, and then lunchtime, kind of check text messages, check email on my laptop. And I don't really check any sort of social media throughout the day. I have one evening a week where I allocate to scheduling social media posts for like my personal business type thing. And then we have a nice little setup in our home. We call it the phone's home. That's where I keep it most of the day to show that this is a message center that return to if there's a phone call or a message. I have the sound on. Just give it physical distance to myself.
So what about if you're getting texts throughout the day? Do you pause your day to answer them, or do you feel as though you can wait? And if you wait, how have you told your friends and family that you're not going to be available within 30 seconds? Because I feel like another part of this conversation that we haven't really touched on is the always on part. Because everybody else is always on.
Yeah.
There's an expectation that we all are always on. And if we don't respond in 30 seconds, like there's something wrong with us. That's the assumption. I don't believe that, but that seems to be the assumption.
Yeah. There's a couple ways you could do it. I personally, in the very beginning, I would apologize if I didn't get back within 30 seconds. I stopped doing that. So making little rules for yourself. So I never apologize. Sometimes it takes me days to get back to people. I always get back to my husband, but other people, I'm in a unique situation. They know me, followed my journey, but you could tell them I'm not going to get back right away. You can use the notification system that says notifications are off. Or I just slowly stopped responding right away. And then it just became the norm when you're texting me and people know, okay, she's not getting back right away. It models that. And then they think, okay, I'm going to start doing that. And it's okay to do that.
Yeah. Thank you. Those are great tips. What a conversation, Emily. Please tell us where we can learn more about you and where we can find your new book. It's titled, one more time, The Unfollow Effect, Intentional Living in a Digital Age.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And I hope you can find tips in that book that I wasn't able to explain here. It is emilyfelpage.com. The book can be found at like barnesandnoble.com, Amazon, or the link from my Instagram account, which is my name as well.
Again, linked in the show notes for everybody. But Emily, I want to thank you so much. The world needs more people like you who are bold enough to not follow the herd and live with a bit more intention. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for everything that you do. I appreciate you.
Listeners, that's a wrap, my friends. Show notes are at mamaminimalist.com/589. Everything you need is there. I have nothing else to say. Book club members, look in the show notes for our latest book club selection coming up in June. And we're doing it on a Wednesday this time. We're changing it up. Usually we're Mondays. In June, we're doing a Wednesday. Hopefully that will enable more of you to join us. So again, look in the show notes for that information. I'll see you next week. We're talking about how to better talk about climate change with those around us. That is next week's conversation. Not just how to do it, because we all should be doing it, are we? I don't know. But how to do it better. How to talk about climate change better. That's next week. I'll see you then. Reach out if you need me, and take care.
Cardiometabolic is one of the biggest health challenges in the U.S., and evaluating patient risk across multiple conditions requires careful attention. With so many testing options and guidelines, getting a clear picture of patient health can still be a challenge. LabCorp brings clarity. Our cardiometabolic testing solutions support early risk assessment and empower more informed decision-making, so you can focus on what matters most, your patients. Visit LabCorp.com to partner with LabCorp and simplify complex patient profiles.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.